Morning. All right. Back to farm stuff today because the truck's all polished and put away. So, put away. I put it in my barn. I'm going to get it back out. So I got an email back from this guy where we got this conveyor from. They do have a box of stuff for us. He said motor, pulley, and belts, which is what I'm waiting for. He said, I'll bring it up sometime when I'm up that way. Yeah, well, that's not great for me, man, because we want to use it. Phil's got wheat in those 3 bins out there, or at least in 1 or 2 of those bins out there, and we'd like to use this conveyor to get it out of them. So I might have to go and get it myself. I don't know. We'll see. For now, though, we are going to go and get that 4440 because it's plugged in. It should start. We'll be fine. We're going to get them hydraulic couplers swapped out and be done with that project, too. Sweet. Here is what we're going to install. And I'll show you the process here as we go. I watched a video on this, so I have somewhat of an idea what I'm doing, but we've got the instructions here. Basically, we've got to take out the couplers that are in here, and they're the conversion kit to make it Pioneer couplers or ISO couplers instead of the old John Deere style, but they leak, and fortunately it's fairly cleaned up from when I had it in the shop a week or 2 ago. We're gonna do, I better make sure, I think this is outlet number 1. I better make sure because I want to do the one that we're going to use the most. And we're going to take this old stuff out. We got to pop these caps off and then pull the pins out, and then they slide out, and we'll clean stuff up a little bit and get the new ones in. Okay, so I got one of these out. The hardest part here is getting the snap ring out. So I'm going to attempt to get this one out. You guys can watch me struggle for a minute, probably in time lapse or sped up, because this is going to take a while. At least the last one did. Where's the end? Oh, right there. Got it. Okay. Once we get that off, then we've got to, you can either pull the cap off the top here. Oh, I might have to take this off. Well, we're going to punch the roll pin out of the handle on the bottom is what we're going to start with. Okay. Now we should be able to tap this up. Pop that cap off. Don't think that's going to go up, so we're going to have to go down, which means this clip's got to come off. Okay. Don't know what happened to that clip. Oh, there it is. There. The next step is to get in there and get the O-rings out. They are 2 right there and 2 back there. Got the O-rings out. There's all the old pieces, so we'll come back over here. I'm pretty sure we're ready for new stuff. I cleaned up the housing there a little bit with some brake cleaner. So what's next? So this is kind of the, I don't know, what do they call this? The insert or whatever part it is that goes in the bore where we took those other ones out of. And then we're going to screw the coupler into this, and it won't slide, it'll stay in there. So we've got to take this piece off the back, the bolt, and that piece, and then it actually screws in the center here. They say to leave that loose and then lubricate up these O-rings really good before we insert this into the bore, the valve body. So I'm going to find some grease or something to put on those, and then we'll be on to step 8. Okay, so I've got this. I've got some lubricant on the O-rings. It says to put one of the couplers on. Sorry, I don't know. Yeah. It says to put one of the couplers on to use it as a handle. There is a pin here that's kind of to index it. We want that to be straight down. So we're going to put it in like this. And I assume this is going to be pretty tight. So we're going to just gently and try not to force it. Okay. 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 Got it. All right, so then we're going to take this out and put our snap ring back in. Okay, now we do the other side. Okay, after we've got both of those in and the snap rings in, it's time to install our couplers. Again, lubricating the O-ring, and we're going to spin this in. And it says to tighten it with an appropriately sized wrench, and that's a big one. I don't have an appropriately sized wrench, so we use the adjustable. I don't know how tight, didn't say. We'll call that good. And then it says to rotate it counterclockwise until it stops right there. Basically that index pin is contacting there. So do the other one again. Okay, I've moved you, so now you're on the back of the tractor looking up at the rear of those blocks right there. So there's a nut on there. We need to tighten those up. Says it's a 5/8. Yeah. I'm going the right way, right? Can't really tell. I'm pretty sure. It's backwards. I was not going the right way.
Whoops.
Okay, this one said 50 foot-pounds. About that much. Okay, once those are tight, then it comes with this little cap with a bolt through it, and we got to put that on the end. Well, the directions said that was going to be hard. It was not. Okay, and that one is a 1/2 inch, and it says tighten firmly, which it also said with that last nut that we had to tighten, except for this one says 15 foot-pounds. Okay, I got both of those on. Next step is to put new dust caps in, or expansion plugs, or whatever they call these. Yeah, these are the expansion plugs. So they fit down in the hole there, and then we just hit them with a hammer and a punch to flatten them out and expand them so that they stick in the hole. I might need a bigger hammer and a bigger punch for that matter. And then the last step is the dust cap. Ouch. There you go.
You had them that much? Had it far out? I mean,
Yeah, well, it replaces the inside.
that's all one piece all the way back?
No, there's an insert that goes in there
No.
that doesn't move. So it's got O-rings built into it, and it doesn't slide past them like the
But this is
original.
what moves.
No,
Oh, you push it in.
it's just like the other tractors.
So you replace these guts and
Yes, I replaced the whole thing, but it screws. This piece screws in on the end there, and it. Yeah.
well, that'll
So
work.
they stick out a little bit, but they're better design quality valve, or newer style valve.
So we're gonna do this one and leave that one for now.
We're gonna do that one and make sure we like it and stuff. And if we still have trouble with that one leaking, we only use one a lot of the time. So I just did the one.
Well, what do we use it on? We use it on
Well, your dump trailer.
the dump trailer and the mower.
Yeah, the mower would use 3 hoses, but I got the book out so I could write down that I changed those couplers in it. Look what I found. Page 1. March 24th, 1978. Good Friday. How about that? My grandpa got this tractor on Good Friday. This one doesn't quite have the same fun illustrations that the 4020 book does, but still, pretty cool to look at these old manuals. Okay, this tractor is done now. Again, we can get it back out of here, put it back where we just got it from. It's lunchtime, so I'm going to go get something to eat, and it's not looking promising on our bushings coming for that field cultivator today, so we'll figure something else out to do this afternoon, I guess. Okay, guys, well, since I didn't get those bushings for that field cultivator here, we're going to do some computer work this afternoon. I've been working on a little bit of this, and I want to show you guys how exactly I'm making my prescription maps for seeding, for starter, and for nitrogen. So we're going to do a field or two where we do all 3 of them. It's a different process for me this year than I've done in the past. We use John Deere's software and products, right? The Green Star receivers, the 2630s, Green Star rate controllers, that's what we use. And so I've always used Apex, which is John Deere's desktop software in the past. And it's always treated me pretty well. But John Deere has moved away from that. They're not really supporting that product anymore. Everything is done through the My John Deere Operations Center, which is really good. It's easier because I can pull it up on my phone. I can, see my maps from anywhere. I really like that software or program or whatever you want to call it. But it's never been able to make my prescriptions the way that I wanted to. It was last spring when they finally came out with the functionality to use multiple years of yield maps to create the zones, which is how I've always done it. Apex has been able to do that for a long time, and now we can finally do it with the prescription creator and My John Deere. So I'm learning how to do that. It is a little bit different. There are things that I really like about it. There are things that I don't like at all because it still doesn't have all the functionality that Apex had. But we're figuring it out. So I've got an all fancy setup here with my GoPro as a webcam. We've got a microphone, and we're going to do this with a screen capture, so it's actually better than me just holding my phone trying to show you what I'm doing. So when I look over here, it's because I got my OBS running on the side. I'm going to switch to this scene. Okay, so here is, we're going to pull up a different field. Let's just get out of this one. Okay, so this is our operations center. These are all of our different fields and stuff here. I just created the maps for this field. Now we are going to do the one right next to it. This field was corn last year. It will be corn again this year. It's only these two, but we're going corn on corn. So what I want to do, actually not even right here, I want to go up here to the plan button and hit Agrian Prescription Creator. That's going to take us to another website. They're all tied together here, but then we select our organization. We select our client, Borderview Farms. We're going to find that field. That's a Bernath farm. We then go to the field. So this one is 5-6. It is west of the house there. And the field boundary automatically loads to the active boundary. That one happened to be created in 2018. So then we go down here to the bottom and it says prescription source. We click on that. We want an average yield. You can also do free forms where you draw them in by hand. You can do field operations if you wanted to do just 1 year's yield data, I think is in there, or a spraying map or something. I don't know why you would do that. Or it does have the option for a soil survey where you can make it based on soil types. A lot of people make their prescription maps based on the soil types and the soil maps. I don't care for that because while soil types and yield are generally correlated, the soil maps are not nearly accurate enough for this. And I care more about the yield potential than I do about the soil type. And there's more things that affect yield potential than just soil. So we're going to go to average yield. That's going to pull up another list here. So we can pick between corn, soybeans, or wheat. In this case, we're making a prescription map for corn, so we're going to use corn. And these are the corn harvest maps that we have available to us to use. Now, I could select all 5 of those, but you can see we've got 2007 and 2010 data in here, and that data is over 10 years old now. Farms change over time as we keep changing the zones a little bit, or we tile them, or whatever the case may be. So I'm made the decision to eliminate the older data, and we're just going to use the 3 most recent years of corn data. Okay, so I check those 3, and then in this bottom box here, we're going to select harvest yield. And then hit the next button, and then that's going to pull up our map. Might take it a second. So while we're waiting for that, I'm going to click up here. This takes me to my plan, and you can see this is the field that we are working on, so I need to know what hybrid we're going to put in there. It is G07F23. So, okay, so here's our back to the prescription creator. This is the auto-populated zones. Now, I could just use those, but I feel like the program is just making zones to make it look pretty, right? Because they're not, look at the breakdown down here on the bottom. Your 188 to 197, 197 to 204, 204 to 209, 209 to 226, those don't mean anything to me other than that they have roughly the same number of acres in each zone. Well, that's not how we're going to do this. So since I know that our top is above 210, we are going to have 5 zones in this field. Our bottom one we're going to set way down here at 120, and then we're going to go to 150, 180, and 210. Then we're going to hit the update map button. So these are my yield zones that I create everything for. And they're a little bit arbitrary by me, but the idea was to have the average kind of be in the middle. Now I may need to adjust them higher at some point, but that between 150 and 180 is pretty historically where we're going to average. And the last few years have been a little bit better, and maybe that's why my maps tend to be towards the higher end of this, but we're going to leave them there for right now. So now you can see our zones up here on this map have updated. It's not as pretty of a map, but it's a more accurate map for my purposes. We have very little down here in this corner that's in the red under 120 zone. We've got a few more spots. No, we don't. We just have this next strip here that's in the 120 to 150, and then we've got a little bit in the yellow zones here, corners. But the vast majority of the field is in this 180 to 210 range, right? Okay, and then we've got some areas that are historically better. Okay, so those are the zones that we want. Now, we're going to click Add a Variety, select a product, and we want our 07F23. So then it brings up these boxes here where we can assign a value to each one of those zones. Now, how do we assign the value? Well, there's another spreadsheet for that I have for most of the stuff. So Golden Harvest gives me this spreadsheet. They used to. This is the last one that was updated, 2019. I wish they still would make these, but they've moved on to other ways that
I still have to figure out. But this hybrid happens to be in there because it was out in 2019. So on this spreadsheet, we can put in our price of grain. I think the spring crop insurance guarantee is actually at like $4.57, so I just put $4.50 in there. Seems reasonable. And then you can put in your cost of your hybrids and what hybrids they are. You can put some constraints on for seeding rates. I have chosen not to do that. But then on this side here, we're going to put in those same yield zones, right? And I'm always trying to push them up to the higher end of that zone. So the bottom one is 120, and then we've got a zone that goes from 120 to 150. Well, I'm putting 150 in there because I want to push that zone to try and make it better. So we do a 150, then we do a 180, a 210, and then the top one I just put 30 bushel above the 210, 240, right? So what that then does is spit out these numbers here, and you can see what happens if I change, say, let's say I change this 180 to 160, and it changes the numbers in there. Yeah, sorry, I don't need to point. It changes the numbers in there to, you know, this 30,800 versus 180. It's 32,900. So, and it does give you a range. You know, there's a couple thousand seeds per acre difference, or maybe 2,500, whatever it is. I tend to stick towards the higher end of whatever range it says because I feel like that fits our soil types and stuff better. If we were on some droutier sands, I may stick to the lower end of it, but for the most part, we're on clay loam soils that we can handle a little bit higher population. All right, so I look at this 07F23 column, and we're going to take these numbers directly and correlate them or put them into right here. So I got this printed off so it's easier for me to not flip back and forth. But our low end was 24,900. Then we go to 29,600. And remember, that 24,900 may seem really low, but it is on 0.138 acres. It's just this little tiny nub back here in the corner. Likewise with the 29.6, it's just this little band right here. We're not planting very many acres at that rate. So then here we get into just a little bit more. It's going to be 32,900, but here's the bulk of it. 24 acres of the field will be planted at 34,800, which is sort of high actually, but this hybrid likes higher populations. It can handle them. And then the high end zone where the yield potential is really high, we're going to go 37,700, which again is high. Okay, so then it tells me the total amount of seeds basically. Amount per bag is 80,000. But I am going to get my calculator out here because I want to take that 1,146,700 and divide it by the number of acres in the field. Back on this spreadsheet, we are right here, 32.6. That gives me my average planting rate, which I can put in right here. It is 35,175. And then that will update the number of units that I need to plant the field, so it ups it a little bit because I put 32,000 in as base, the base or default on everything essentially, and then we modify from there. So that gives us our population prescription. So in this column, I'm going to write, yes, I have a population prescription. Now we're going to go back, and down here we're going to click Add a Tank Mix. Corn starter. So now we're going to make the prescription map for our corn starter. We're using the exact same zones, so when the planter changes the seeding rate, it's also going to change the fertilizer rate. And how do I come up with these values? Well, that goes back to this spreadsheet and my starter stuff. You guys remember I was working on this a while ago when we were trying to order chemicals and stuff back in January, trying to figure out what I wanted to use for starter blend. And this is what I came up with, what's in this box. It's going to be, we're getting this pre-blended product that's 1034O and ATS. It's going to come out at about 10.5, 32O, 2% sulfur. I'm going to add some more ATS to that. Basically, the blend that I've got set is for 12.5 gallons per acre, our mid rate, and it's 7.5 gallons of the starter, the 1034O blend, 4.5 of ATS, which is ammonium thiosulfate, 12% nitrogen, 26% sulfur, a quart of zinc, and a quart of boron. And so these rates right here correlate to this row above it, which is our yield zones, right? So that's where those numbers are coming from. And basically the 12.5 is my standard. That's where I want to be right in the middle. And then I adjust the rate by whatever percent the yield zone changes. So 150 divided by 180, or I guess 180 divided by 150, equals 1.1667% of the 12.5, or 14.6 gallons per acre. So now we go back here, we type those numbers in. So we're 8.3, 10.4, 12.5, 14.6, and then our highest zone will be 16.6. Okay. Now, next thing we're going to do, oh wait, same thing here. So we've got, that means we're going to use 483 gallons of starter on that field divided by our 30, what was it? 2.6. That's 14.8 gallons per acre average. 14.8. Okay, and yes, we have a starter prescription. Okay, next thing we need is anhydrous rates. So we're going to go back here. We're going to click Add Chemical. Select the product. Scroll down till we get to 8200. And then it makes new zones, or new boxes here. Again, same zones. And these rates also are coming from this same spreadsheet. If you come down to this line, pounds of N from NH3. So these are the numbers that we're going to use. And basically, I adjust those numbers to get up to the total pounds of N that I want for each zone. And I'm shooting for 1 pound of N per bushel. There's a huge debate on how much nitrogen you need. This is kind of the accepted science, is it takes a pound of nitrogen to grow a pound or a bushel of corn. Some guys are doing it on 0.8 of a pound of N per bushel. Some guys are doing it on more than that. This is the best that I can do, so those are the numbers that I use. So I want 120 pounds in my low end. Well, I'm getting 10 pounds right here from the starter, so I need 110 from the anhydrous. Likewise, in the zone where we actually are doing most of the stuff, it's 210 is the top end of the zone, so I want to put about 210 pounds of nitrogen on total. We're getting 17 from the starter because we're putting a higher rate of starter on, so I'm going to do 190, which gets me up to the 207. That's pretty darn close, right? And then, yeah, so we take those numbers, we go back over here. Again, I've got them printed off over here. It is 110, 140, 165, 190, and 220. Okay, so that means we're going to have 6,323 pounds of nitrogen in our anhydrous divided by 32.6. It's 193 pounds per acre average. So we come back to the crop plan over here. We type in 193. We're going to call that 194. And yes. Now this spreadsheet will calculate out then how many tons that is per field. So it'll be 3.85 tons of anhydrous. So the nitrogen number, the 110, 220, those are actual pounds of N. Anhydrous is 82% nitrogen, so this formula does the calculation to figure out how many tons of actual product that is. So basically it tells me about how many anhydrous tanks I'm going to need. 2 tanks to do that field, more or less. Okay, so we go back over here, and now we've got our nitrogen, our starter, and our seeding rates all in there, and we're going to hit save. And once this saves, it's going to ask if you want to do another one or you want to close. I'm just going to hit close for right now, because then it takes me to this screen, and you can see the files that we just created. 5-6, there's the 3. These will get automatically uploaded to the display in the tractor, where the planner, or with the planner, and then we can use them once we get to the field. So that was a 16 minutes. Oh gosh, I'm sorry guys. Anyway, if you have any questions, comments on how that works, let me know. I'm going to sit here and work on this for a while.
All right, well, that's enough of that for today. I'm going to move this tractor, put it back in the barn in the back, and then do I have my opener in here? No. Then I'm going home. So thanks for watching today. Like I said, if you have any questions and comments on the hydraulic stuff or the prescription stuff, either way, let me know, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow. Hopefully our parts come. Brock will be here tomorrow, so we'll have to find something to do. Oh man, it's pretty.